I was actually golfing and I had a stroke and it affected my vision. I kind of write at my own pace, and I guess as I've gotten older, hopefully I've gotten a little better at it. I love overlapping characters. It doesn't help in Hollywood where different studios have different rights to the characters, but you got to write what you want to write. I'm not writing for my readers, but I respect my readers, and I think about the reading process where the reader's rewarded for sticking with me, like an aha moment, or I remember this guy from that book or that book.
Yeah.
I'm glad you pick up on a little detail like that. But because all the little details add up to something big.
That's interesting. So it's made you kind of think, well, look, I can see again, I can write again. Let's shift right up into fourth gear. Hello, welcome to another episode of Books on the Beach. If you're listening to this and not watching it on YouTube, you will not see the full extent of the huge smile that is on my face, because today's episode features my all-time favourite writer. He's been responsible for Harry Bosch, for The Lincoln Lawyer, for Lawyer Ballard, and now we're on book 2 with someone I count as a friend already, still, Detective Stilwell. Ironwood is the book, you'll see it behind me. And the global selling, award-winning, best crime writer of all time, says me, Michael Connelly joins us. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for that amazing introduction, as usual.
Well, thank you for saying yes again, because, I love chatting to you and I love reading the books. And I was supposed to do an event with you, wasn't I, in the UK last year, and you couldn't travel, you weren't well at the time. So you look great now, man. How's it all going?
Yeah, I'm in good shape. I had a little setback there. I was actually golfing and I had a stroke and it affected my vision, and pretty badly at first. But right away the doctors said this is not an unusual thing and your vision will come back. And it did after a couple months. But I had to really curtail all kinds of travel. So I was disappointed not to make it over to the UK and to do that event with you.
Completely understandable, though. My wife had a stroke several years ago, and the first thing that goes is long haul travel and driving. Were you able to drive, or you had to not drive for a while?
I didn't drive for a while. It was, the medical science is pretty amazing. They actually knew where it hit me in the occipital lobe. A clot went up into my brain, and that controls your vision. And so that, people get strokes and have all kinds of different injuries. Me, it was my eyes, and that was it. And it was basically they were about 80% occluded by a deep swirl, so it started going away almost right away, and I have a little bit of it left now, but nothing that stops me from playing golf or driving or most importantly, sitting in front of a computer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course, yeah, because that must have been a concern. I mean, how many hours a day would you say you're in front of your laptop when you're writing?
It depends on where I am in a book. Starting a book is the hardest thing, so I would say 4 hours. But then when I hit like what I call a critical mass, where everything is kind of swirling together, coming together, and you're on the downslope, then I like to be writing all day, anywhere from like 8 to 12 hours, with breaks and take a walk the dog, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I have to say, aside from the fact that I knew that you'd been unwell because I was supposed to be doing an event with you, you wouldn't know from your workload last year that you'd been poorly at all. You didn't pause anything, did you? I mean, the TV shows, I know you'll tell me they run pretty much without you, but you still gave us the first Stilwell, I should say.
Yeah, it's and I'm doing it again this year. Being at home and writing is, I'm so lucky to be able to do that. So I kind of write at my own pace, and I guess as I've gotten older, hopefully I've gotten a little better at it, and so it comes quicker. And so when I shifted, last year, what you saw was the product of the year before, because you're always doing it ahead of time. So it looked like I was super busy, and then I had a stroke, and it didn't stop me at all. But that wasn't really the case. But, as I've relaxed my involvement in the TV shows, it's increased my time in my home office writing. And, next thing you know, you have a couple books I'm not going to do that every year, but this has been a pretty fertile time. I think having a stroke and thinking about what could have happened has also made me, reinvigorated me in terms of let's get done what I can get done now.
Yeah, has it? That's interesting. It can go either way, can't it, with something like that? But that's interesting. So it's made you kind of think, well, look, I can see again, I can write again. Let's shift right up into fourth gear.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good for you. And did you gave us a Lincoln Lawyer as well? Was that last year or the year before? Am I getting muddled up?
Uh, I'm so involved in what I'm writing right now. It makes me think, what was my book last year? And also, these characters are all mixed together in different books at different times. So last year, I think the book was The Waiting, wasn't that it? And
But just the one. I mean, just the one book last year, was it? I thought it was two, but maybe Hauler was the year before.
no, the first Stilwell came out in the summer,
Yeah.
and then I had another book come out last fall. So last year, I published two books.
Yeah, and two again this year. So that's what I mean. You've not, if anything, you've increased really, haven't you? You've done two a year sometimes, but not always. You're not always a two a year guy, are you?
No, not at all. I'm sorry that I can't even remember my own books. The Proving Ground was the book that came out in
Of
November,
course. Yeah, of course. Well, I should have remembered it as well.
and that was Lincoln Lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I devoured and loved, by the way. It was superb, Michael. Really, really good.
Thank you.
So let's get on to this. So I said Stillwood earlier. Did you notice that slip of the tongue? Because Stilwell is back in book 2 in Ironwood. That's where the brain was going on this side of the Atlantic. So we should talk about this. Now, I think I've done the maths correctly. Your 42nd novel?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Which in itself is remarkable, isn't it? Do you not think?
Yeah. No, I mean, how I couldn't have never seen this coming. It's just kind of amazing to me. I try not to sit back and look at the past. I keep thinking about what I want to do in the future.
Yeah.
But you can't see it here, but I have this desk. I'm in my home office, and the front of it is a bookshelf, and it's almost full of my own books. And so very egocentric to do that. But when I see this line of books, I think, how did that happen? That's kind of amazing that the literary gods let me do this.
Well, I reckon it was probably 5 or 6 years ago when I interviewed you, and I was saying to you, wouldn't it be great if some of these characters that you've created overlapped in like a Marvel universe kind of way? And not only has that happened, but then I read an interview a couple of weeks ago in an American publication with you where someone's now called it the BoschVerse. You heard this?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It's an interesting thing to say, and it just is something where I love overlapping characters. It doesn't help in Hollywood where different studios have different rights to the characters, but you got to write what you want to write, and it if it comes to you in a moment to throw in this character, that's what I do. I think a lot about. I'm not writing for my readers, but I respect my readers and I think about the reading process, and I love to put things in where the reader's rewarded for sticking with me, like an aha moment, or I remember this guy from that book or that book.
Yeah.
And that's fun to do. And I know, I like to write like I like to read, and that's really kind of been my goal all along.
So it's probably stating the obvious, but if you're not writing for your readers, who are you writing for? You?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to, again, everything comes back to ego, but I feel like if I'm happy with something, there'll be people out there that are happy, that I'm the everyman. And so the readers are obviously all important, but at the end of the day, I want to write something that I'm happy with, and then my ego dictates that means other people will be happy with it.
And that's interesting as well what you're saying, because obviously you've been really. Well, I want to use the word fortunate, Michael, but I'm not using it in a derogatory way. You know what I mean? But to have so many TV shows is unusual for any writer, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's amazing fortune, amazing luck. I think. Kind of dovetails with what we were just talking about. I think these characters that I've created people connect to. And, so Hollywood is always looking for that. I think it always starts with character. And so that's why they've come knocking on my door in these recent years with the advent of streaming, which is a way of consuming visual stories that are really character based, because it's mostly serialized storytelling. I know it's shifting a little bit now to more episodic, which is more like networks have always been.
Hmm.
But at least in the decade before this, it was about continuing a story with a character and bringing your viewer along week to week and episode to episode.
So with Ironwood, we're back with Stilwell, we're back in Catalina, and I'm trying to kind of work out now, because I read this about a month ago, how much I can reveal without doing a spoiler. There's basically, quite early on, there's an incident on the tarmac, isn't there, of the airport. We can say that much, can't we?
Yeah, that's the start of it. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on in Ironwood. And that's one reason why I've been drawn towards writing about Stilwell and this island, because he's the only detective on the island, so he has to kind of handle everything. And so in this book, everything from murder on down to graffiti, and he's handling these investigations. But it does start with, I guess you call it an investigation gone wrong, where they're on a surveillance at the little airstrip that's on the top of the island. It's on the top of a mountain. And they're expecting a drug drop, a plane to come in, and and things just go sideways, and there's a shootout, and bad things happen, and Stillwell's kind of in the middle of it, and he carries his some guilt from it, but he also carries the drive to find out what happened.
There's also something to be solved here, which involves him going back to the BoschVerse, having to hook up with Rene Ballard, right?
Yeah, he's Stillwell's only been on the island, I think it's 2.5 years, and we won't go into what triggers this, but basically he starts looking into a missing hiker, a hiker who disappeared about 5 years ago on a very popular hiking trail on the island. And he finds out about that case and then connects it to a case on the mainland that he has to go to Renee Ballard for, to kind of join forces. And so there's that overlapping, as you say, of characters. And I think it was a good pairing. It was an interesting uh, story to write. And yeah, so it's just like he's a busy guy, Stillwell, with
Mm.
all the things that are going on. And now he has a case where he has to spend a fair amount of time on the mainland.
It's a really enjoyable pairing to read, the two of them, because it's not instant. They don't instantly hit it off. There's a bit of chess to it and a bit of kind of feeling each other out. Can I trust this guy? Can I trust this woman? I really enjoyed. It's not quite the conflict, but maybe the cat and mouse of the initial introduction.
Yeah, I mean, there's a natural, I don't know what the right word would be, suspicion maybe
Yeah.
between agencies, and Stillwell's LA County Sheriff's and Ballard is LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department. And so there's a little wall between that. There are like fellow law enforcement, fellow detectives. And so there's a respect, but there's also this circling period where they got to circle around each other. And Ballard definitely wants to know what he's up to and whether she can trust him, and that's a two-way street.
And is it quite easy for you personally to get to Catalina? Do you go when you're doing these books? Do you feel the need to go and be in the habitat?
Yeah, I mean, it's a small island. There's not, it's only like 3,000 people. So, I don't have to spend a lot of time there, I don't think. But I've been going there since 1987 when I moved out to LA. So I've been out there several times. I was out there last week doing some research because I'm going to write a third Stillwell novel. And it's interesting because I would say the first novel, Nightshade, was kind of like a concept novel. This is the idea is this guy's the lone detective out there, and I created some intrigue and so forth. But when that book came out, I then started meeting people who have spent time out there, who have lived out there, who have worked in investigations out there. And I think Ironwood, the new book, is much more substantial and much more like insider information on how that island works. And that was really great to get. I mean, like I met it was interesting. It was a judge in LA County that I've known for a long time, but I didn't know that she was a prosecutor on Catalina for almost 9 years. And so when she read that, she reads my book, she read the book and goes like, we got to talk. And then I spent some time with her and she gave me a lot of inside information about the politics and the families in power and so forth on the island, a couple of the scandals and so forth. And so I just think the second book is much more informed and realistic.
Well, that makes perfect sense with the storyline in this as well now, what you've just said. But also, that's how you work. I mean, that's the Michael Connelly that I know. I mean, you love an informed source, don't you? It goes back to your journalism days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was pretty conscious that that's what I thought I could bring. I was covered crime for newspapers for about 14 years, and so I kind of had a sense of how things work and so forth, and so if there's any kind of thing to my work, it's the attempt to be as accurate as possible about the worlds I write about. And it's not just about procedure and stuff like that. It's really about character and like what it takes to do this kind of work and what drives people when they're doing this kind of work. Just trying to get it as real as possible, and that definitely is from being a journalist.
Yeah, and environment's a really important part of this as well, isn't it? You know, I mean, if you took me to Catalina, say tomorrow for the first time, I'm sure some of that ferry ride would be spent with you saying, now listen, when you get there, don't do this, do that, watch out for that. You know what I mean? We all need to, and that's really important in a storytelling process as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a tendency to break a story into three things: character and place and plot. But to me, it's character and place and plot are in service of character. You figure out how to use a location to say something about your character, how to use a plot to reveal something about your character. And so it's really about character and the place where they live and work is vitally important in delivering character.
So Stilwell is divorced. We find that out in book one, and he's now got this girlfriend, Tash, who works on the island as well. And one of the things I love about your writing, which I think I've told you before, Michael, is that you can really subtly give us a flavour of character in one or two sentences. So there's a scene here which I won't. I will offer no context. There's no spoilers in this scene. But other than that, Stilwell has given Tash some flowers. And she says, these are wishbones, my favourite. Did you pick them up there in the grove? And he says, yeah. And she says, oh, there's a bit of detail there I'll skate over. And then you write, he realised it was the first time he'd ever given her flowers. I thought, wow. You know what I mean? That's a great detail to kind of say where they're at in their relationship.
Yeah. I'm glad you pick up on a little detail like that. Because all the little details add up to something big.
Of
And
course.
yeah, I mean, they're a fairly new couple, and I really like the interchanges they have and how Tash is happy never to leave the island and does not feel right when she's off the island. I think that's an interesting character. There's people like that out there. And you think, oh, they're hiding from the world, and maybe to some extent, but also they're satisfied and happy with the world that they have. And I like writing about someone like that, and in a relationship with someone like Stilwell, who if he gets a case, he's going to go wherever it goes. It goes where it goes, as a lot of homicide detectives say. And so that sets up some friction, and you got to have friction in relationships, in books, maybe not in real life, but in books. You need some friction, you need some contrast, and it's just a requirement of what I think of good storytelling.
Sure. But how do you make sure when you're putting friction on the page that you're not overdoing it? Because you don't. So how do you get that right?
Less is more.
Yeah.
When I write these books, I write the first draft, and the drafts become shorter as I go through it and edit, and I just am a real disciple of the idea of less is more. So you take stuff away, stuff that's not said. When something is not said, it actually can say a lot, and and it's just a gut feeling, and it's a lot of finessing and ways of getting to the point of that discussion or that scene with less words.
Now, this isn't a spoiler because I've checked the internet, and the internet already knows this, Michael, but Harry Bosch appears in this novel. And there's, again, a lovely small detail I've picked up on that I wanted to talk to you about. Bosch takes a rifle cartridge from every cop funeral that he attends. He has a jar of them. And I thought that has to have, it just struck me that has to have come from a cop you've spoken to. Or did that purely come from your imagination?
All right, I'm going to reveal something here that is somewhat embarrassing. It came from my imagination, but a few cops have told me that would never happen because they clean up their shells and they whatever you can reload shells, and ammo is expensive and it's controlled, and so they never do the 21 gun salute and leave all this brass in the grass for someone like Harry to come along and pick up a shell. They pick it up themselves, and so that is definitely a fictional construct.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Well, you had me fooled. It felt really real.
Well, but I mean, I still do it, and like as you say, it's mentioned in this book, and because it says something about a guy who would do that. It shows where his loyalties are and his dedication is. So that's a situation where I was told that a long time ago, and I didn't stop doing it. I had
Right.
Bosch do it in books. And it's like a place where I veer from this accuracy, which I claim that I have, and go into a very fictional thing just because it makes a required point.
Yeah. I don't think that's embarrassing. You don't need to be embarrassed by that, I don't think.
Ah, well, I mean, it's when a cop tells you, "Hey, that would never happen." I kind of like,
I get it.
yeah,
I get
yeah,
it. I get it. But then when you can justify it by saying, I need it for Bosch to show this, this, and this of the character, it kind of works, right?
yeah.
You're in charge. There's as always with your books, there are lovely little facts scattered through this, and again done with a really light touch. One of the nice parts about Tash and Stilwell's relationship is they can never decide what movies to watch on movie night, which is so common. I've got so many friends, and obviously you mentioned DVDs here, but with my friends now, it's the Netflix bloop. Do you know what I mean? Bloop.
Yeah.
No, I've seen that. But in here, you reveal that the underwater shots of Jaws, the kind of opening sequence of Jaws with the woman in the bikini, that's shot in Catalina. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's according to Wikipedia. I've not independently confirmed that,
You've
but
not called Spielberg.
no, but there's it's funny you should bring that up. Coincidentally, so out here at the Academy of Film, they have a museum, and right now the exhibition is about the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and I'm going to go on Sunday and see if I can confirm that story. But everyone in Catalina believes it, and it's on Wikipedia, so I think I'm fairly sure. It was actually like a reshoot. They wanted clearer water than they had, so they shot it again.
Ah, okay, all right. So by the time this episode airs, you'll know whether that's right or not.
Yeah.
So again, no context to this, Michael, but there's reference here to polymer matrix, MIP projectile. Stilwell disconnected and looked down at his notes and then typed MIPCO ammo into his search engine on the company's website, and all sorts of talk about kind of MIP projectiles and what have you. And I just thought, again, there's kind of polymer matrix mixed with metal particles. Yeah. Now, is that just a simple wiki, or is that kind of detailed research into ammo?
Yeah, that's kind of the stuff I love doing.
Right.
Taking a deep dive. There's what common knowledge about ammunition, and then you get into the metallurgy and all the different components that go into making something. And when you do a deep dive like that, you're finding clues. You're finding things that you can then harness as clues for Stilwell or Bosch or Ballard or whoever I'm writing about to follow. So Yeah, it's weird that comes out of quote unquote research, but to me, it's just fun. It's fun to go down a rabbit hole every now and then, and then come out of it with something you can put in the book that might make someone like Phil Williams or somebody else go like, where'd that come from? You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I tell you what I thought. Amongst your skills, of which you have many, is you've got knowledge, but you don't feel the need to spread it on every page, because at the end of the day, it's not a document, is it? It's not a non-fiction book; it's a fiction book. And so, how difficult is it when you go down one of these rabbit holes and you're really excited by what you've found? How to be judicious with what you've discovered?
Yeah, I mean, I got two answers to that. One, if I'm having fun going down this rabbit hole, it's what we talked about earlier. I think about the reader. I think the reader could have fun going down that rabbit hole with me. And then the other part is just, the less is more school of writing. I want to be as accurate as possible, but being deadly accurate can be deadly boring. So you don't put in everything you know. And then the third thing I'll just throw in there is, a lot of this stuff is about criminal behavior. So you don't want, your book to be a primer on how to commit some kind of crime and get away with it. So I often will leave out key parts of something so that I'm not putting out everything about some possibly illicit thing in a book.
So, did you say you were in Catalina last week?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're already researching the third Stilwell, but I know that you said a couple of times how full your head is. That's with the next Harry Bosch, which is going to come out at the end of 2026. Is that right?
Yes. And so, yeah, this was not the right time to be researching the book I'll do after that. But I had to go out there and shoot some videos to promote Ironwood. So they'll be coming out soon, like, me showing some of the locations that are in the book. And so I went
Okay.
there with my daughter who videoed me, and then I spent some time doing research for what I know I want to write about next time.
Because the question was going to be how you juggle so many things at once. Because when you're into the depth of a book, I wouldn't have thought you'd be wanting to do research on something else.
No, I kind of did this grudgingly, but it was required because Ironwood's about to come out and
Yeah.
publishers need to put video on websites and things like that. So
Yeah.
I went out for a day. I didn't stay over. I did it all in one day. I was a busy day and a long day, but I only had to sacrifice one day away from what I'm doing right now in terms of writing.
Made more pain less because you were able to go with your daughter. That's quite a nice touch, isn't it? If she's your videographer.
Yeah, no, that was a key part of it. That she lives here in Los Angeles, but don't see her all that much, except when she needs to do laundry and comes home. But so it was good to spend a day with her. And obviously, we talked about more than my research, and we had a couple meals together, and it was a great time.
Terrible state of the world, isn't it? That, she's a thriving, successful California, but still can't have her own washing machine.
It's weird. She lives in a building that has a laundry, but it's in the basement and it's kind of dark and damp and scary.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you just want to go home and have dinner with your parents while your stuff is twirling in the washing machine?
But on the plus side, that laundry's going in the next book, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got all the
Nothing,
hallmarks of it.
everything gets used.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah, I'm sure it does. So the writing of the Bosch, how is that going? And we will get that end of this year.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about it? I mean, I obviously don't want the plot line or anything, but can you just whet the appetite?
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting up there, so I never know when be finished writing. So I'm trying to I've just started this, then Harry's the first book. I'm going to do a book about each one of my characters before I'm finished. And and I just got a spark of an idea of Harry. So in the books, it said that Harry, as a child, when after his mother was murdered, he went into the social services basic world, and he was at a place called McLaren Youth Hall, which was a real place and is pretty notorious. It was shut down in the year 2000 with all kinds of scandal. And
Hmm.
just in the last few years, the county has agreed to a massive settlement with all the now grown up, but all the kids that went through there and were abused, and it's a horror story, and but it just kind of was in the news in a big way because of this big settlement with the county, and so I concocted a story where what's going on in real life in this last year or so sparks a memory in Bosch of a killing that occurred at the youth hall when he was there. Another kid was killed by probably another kid. These are all young teenagers. People were in there till they were 16. And so that makes Bosch go back and look into that case. So it's a 65-year-old, I'm sorry, a 60-year-old cold case that Harry is trying to solve. And it takes him, as things do, small things become big, and it takes him into a current investigation by the FBI. And Harry doesn't have a great history with the
No,
FBI. So
exactly.
it's a friction and name calling and stuff like that.
Any other characters in it?
Yeah, I see Ballard's in it briefly, and even Haller's in it briefly, but very briefly. It's not going to say Harry Bosch and Ballard book. It's going to say
Yeah,
a Harry Bosch book.
yeah.
Um, I really want, the narration is completely through him, and so you're with Harry on every page.
Now, you said something a moment ago. I didn't want to interrupt you, but you said it and my heart jumped. And you said, I want to do a book on each character before I finish. Are you planning to stop writing?
No, I don't think so. But I turned 70 in a couple months, and it's like you never know what's going to happen. I've outlived my parents, and right now I'm in great health, I think, and I love what I'm doing. I'm at home here in my office. I just have to walk down the hall to work. So I have no plans to stop, but you just never know.
So, what have you mapped out then? If you're giving us a Bosch in October, and then you're going to do who's on the list for you to do then? A Mickey, a Rene, will you do a Jack?
Yep, I want to do them all. I don't have plans for them, but that is the plan, and then one more Stillwell at least.
Right.
So after this book, this Bosch book, I will go to the make use of the research I did last week and do the Stillwell book. Stillwell books are beach books, summer books,
Yes.
and so I want to have another one for next summer.
Yeah, I was very fortunate because we went away at Easter, so I read it on holiday, and it's a perfect holiday read. As you mentioned that, we should probably do the books on the beach stuff, Michael, as you've nicely led me into it. Best holiday you've ever had?
Um, that's a hard answer because I've been very fortunate. I've been to a lot of places, so I could tick off a lot of things. But I'm going to talk about one that was kind of came out of a unplanned situation. So my family, I've gone to Australia several times on book tours, and I've reported back to my family I really like it over there. So we went on a vacation finally, no work involved. And we were planning to go through a lot of the country, including the Great Barrier Reef. But there had been I guess they call it a cyclone there, a hurricane had gone through north of Australia and destroyed the hotel where we were going to stay. And a lot of hotels were damaged. And so basically the Barrier Reef was closed for that summer. And so on the fly, my wife found out about a place called Lord Howe Island. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, so this is an island. It's Australia, but it's an island between Australia and New Zealand, and it's a World Heritage Site. There's only allowed 400 people on the island at any time. So if a plane comes in, a prop plane, you got to get there by prop plane that carries like six people. Yeah, six people in and six people leave. It's like that. And there's a couple of resorts there and amazing water and beaches and inlets. And like you could walk out, at the hotel we stayed at, they gave us a loaf of bread and said, go to any inlet and start throwing bread in the water. And I have these amazing videos of my daughter, knee deep in water and fish all surrounding her eating bread. And it was an amazing trip. And like we went to Australia not even expecting to be there. And I always credit my wife for like, how did you find out about this place? Because I'd never even heard of it. And I've talked to many people from Australia over the years, and even they have not heard of it.
Oh,
But
wow.
Lord Howe Island, if you can get there, that is a good place to go.
So named because once you get there, you say, Lord, how did you find this?
Yeah,
And the best book you ever read on a holiday?
that's another hard one. The part about you ever read. But I was on a vacation. Well, it was like a Thanksgiving week over here, and I usually don't do any work on that. We kind of do a family reunion. So I read this book that it came out about 10 years ago, and it's called A Burglar's Guide to the City. The title is a bit misleading, but it's about the connection between, it's nonfiction, and it's about the connection between crime and the design of cities, the design of buildings, architecture, and how I think this is a line from the book, burglary and architecture go hand in hand. And it's about how, and there's many examples of true crimes of very elaborate heists where entrances were made through different areas. And my first book was based on a true story of a heist where burglars tunneled under the city and then up into a bank. That gets mentioned in the book. And it just for someone who writes crime novels and has experience as a crime journalist, I found the book to be fascinating. And is that the best book I ever read? No, but it's one of the more recent ones I've read because, as you and I have discussed over the years, I don't read a whole lot, which is a shame because you got to read to put gas in the tank if you're going to be a writer. You got to be inspired by other people's writings. But I can write, probably because of my journalism training, I can write at any time, planes, trains, and automobiles. So when most people are reading books, I'm writing. And so therefore my consumption of books, of reading is very limited, and it's kind of a shameful thing to have to admit, but that's the case.
Yeah, that's the way it is right now. So that's A Burglar's Guide to the City. Jeff and Manor, the surname is Manaugh, if you want to check that out after Michael told you about it. Can we talk about books and reading a bit? There's been some research that says 40% of UK adults didn't pick up a single book last year. There was something around a couple of weeks ago that kids have been given physical books and they're pinch zooming the page because they assume it's an electronic device. I know that you and your wife are quite keen on helping to fund Pen America, which is tackling books getting banned in the state of Florida. How concerned are you for, say, my kids who are 7 and 10 and their cohort and their ability to enjoy reading in the same way you and I did?
Well, I'm concerned because books, carry our knowledge. Libraries carry all our knowledge and experiences, and you never know what's going to touch off an inspiration in someone to be a writer or to be a scientist. Um, and it's so that is dwindling. It's being eroded. This idea that kids should read books because it is a habit that is started early, and so I'm no expert on anything, but it's definitely a concern. And then, the banning of books is another issue, but it's definitely a related issue that I happen to, maybe because I'm a writer, I have a 29-year-old daughter who's a voracious reader. And when I was at her ages, I was a voracious reader too. And I'm talking to you because I was a reader first before I became a writer. Some of the books that have meant a lot to her in her life are banned. And she grew up partially in Florida. She's born in LA, but grew up in Florida because we lived there for a while and kind of lived in both places. And yeah, I mean, one of the key things that happened to me in my life was I spent a lot of time in a library when I was 12 and 13 because my parents worked and I was off from school and I would go to a city park that also included a library. And went in there ostensibly initially to get air conditioning because it was South Florida. It was very hot and humid. But the librarians were pretty smart and they knew what these kids were doing coming over from the park, and they would make us read. And one of them made me read To Kill a Mockingbird. And I had to have read that to become a writer. And I think The Lincoln Lawyer has roots in that book because it's about a lawyer who was willing to sacrifice the most important things in his life to do the right thing. And that's a theme that I hope is in my books and in my Lincoln Lawyer books. So that book was vitally important to me, and it was banned in that county a couple years ago. The place where I read that book no longer carried it, and that's what really set me off. And my wife Linda and I decided to try to help do something about it.
So how does it work? Explain Pen America. How does that work?
Well, we funded a lawyer basically that would be based in Florida and would challenge these bans. You know, I got lucky that I have a kid that loves to read and read whatever she wanted. I was aware of what she was reading, and I would caution on some things, but to have books that she read and that were meaningful to her when she was a teenager not be available to teenagers now, that to me is kind of a crime. So I just don't think people should be telling parents what their kids can and cannot read. I think it's a parent's duty, and I think it's a child's duty to figure those things out. It shouldn't be controlled by other people.
Do you think you'll get some respite from that post 2028, or is it more than just a political regime? Is what I'm asking. Do you feel it's a bit of a cultural sea change?
Yeah, I do think it's a cultural thing. I think obviously a change in 28 would be helpful, and possibly change things. But I have to say I'm pessimistic about it because the people that are doing this, it is somewhat of a network, but they're getting in on low level like school boards and library boards and things like that. And people have to care about that enough to try to balance that with the other opposite views. And I just don't know if that will happen. I think it is kind of a cultural change.
I don't want to. I can't. We can't end on a pessimistic note. I just can't. It's quite bleak the way you've laid that out. Really, what would be your advice to me with my kids at 7 and 10? They're both reading right now. How do I keep that going?
I just think keep books around, keep books, on shelves, on tables. Just keep books available. Take your kid to the library. We did that, and kind of set her loose to look for what she wanted to get into.
Yeah, we do that with ours as well.
There's always going to be assignments at school, but try to read outside of your assignments. Um, my mother was always reading. My father was not much of a reader, but like my memories of my mother, she always seems to have a book in her hand in my visual memories, which was a really important part of me becoming who I am. Um, but yeah, I just think access to books is important.
Just while we're dealing with the bleak stuff, what's going on with the AI case that you and John Grisham and several others have brought? That seems to have been, I think we spoke about it last time. There's no resolution yet.
No, I probably since we talked, did I think it was 2 days of depositions, which were kind of brutal to sit. And it's funny, I write about a lawyer, and I had to sit and be questioned by a lawyer for about a total of, I think it was 7 hours.
In front of a video camera, but not in a courtroom, right?
Yeah, it was in like a big boardroom. There's two cameras on me. Um, and, it was actually research for me because I enjoyed what I saw on the setup because I'll probably end up using it in a book someday. Anyway, so I think they're in the deposition stage. I was one of the first to give a deposition. I know John Grisham. Um, and I don't know. It just seems like rulings have been in our favor for the most part. And there was another case, a very similar case that was settled. And so hopefully this will come to a kind of a fruition that's equitable to everybody. But we'll see. Since I gave that deposition, that was in December, I have not really had any kind of update on where we stand on it.
So there's no clear timetable on an outcome for that.
I think that, well, I mean, if it would happen, I believe there'll be a trial next year if it gets to a trial. But my sneaking suspicion is that it'll get settled before that.
We should explain, by the way, I said the AI case. If you're unfamiliar as you listen or watch, this is a group of writers saying they don't want their text, their work being fed into AI engines so that AI can effectively learn and almost duplicate, but recreate what you've done, right? That's the essence of the case. Have I nailed that? Have I got that right?
Yes, except for the fact that it already happened. They did that,
Without asking.
yeah, without permission. And so the horse is out of the barn or whatever that's saying.
Genie's out the bottle.
Yeah, so there's not really, I don't know what can be done about it. Obviously they're going to seek damages for that, for basically stealing your copyrighted material. But they're also trying to institute a procedure where they can, if they want to use your book, they got to come to you and negotiate it, just like a publisher. Publisher wants to publish my book, they negotiate with me, and that's what should happen if they're going to use your book for AI training, or if and then it becomes a choice of every author. I don't like the idea of going on Chat GPT and say, "Give me a Harry Bosch book that I didn't write." So that's essentially what has happened.
Well, let's do a TV roundup before we say goodbye. So Ballard is now being made, or is it ready to go for season 2?
It's being filmed now. We're about halfway through. I think that will be out. It's not scheduled yet. It'll be out either late this year or early next year.
And Bosch is getting some kind of young Bosch, or Bosch the early years I've seen on socials.
Yeah, we're filming a show called Bosch Start of Watch, and it involves Bosch as a rookie patrol officer in his first year, set in 1992. So it's a prequel to the Bosch of the TV, not Bosch of the books. Set in 1992, which was a kind of a cataclysmic year in LA history, and so a lot going on for a guy fresh on the force, and that's going well. I just watched the first episode last night, and I loved it.
Oh, wow, did you?
I was overwhelmed by how good it was.
How involved have you been with this?
I haven't written any scripts, but I've been involved in casting. We cast a young actor named Cameron Monaghan, who actually looks like Titus Welliver, as
wow.
a guy in his 20s. He's a really great actor, and we paired him with another training officer, and it's a new take on Bosch that's not based on any book. I have never written about Bosch as a young cop. I've had little moments here and there of his memories, but for the moment, I mean, for the most of this is fully realized and created in a writing room.
And Lincoln Lawyer, are we on season 4?
Season 4 came out in March, and we're filming season 5 right now.
Wow. Are you going to run out of books? Because there aren't as many haulers as there are Bosches, are there?
Yeah, I think we're on actually the Proving Ground, the AI Lincoln Lawyer book.
Yes.
It's the only one untapped at this point, because we did the Law of Innocence, and we're doing Resurrection Walk for season 5.
So you've got one still in the bank, and then do you feel any pressure from TV then to think, because you said your next book's you're going to go back to Stilwell, so then will you have to go back to Hauler to satisfy TV, or do you think TV can wait and I'll do it at my own pace?
Yeah, I'm not doing it for TV. I trust all the people on these shows, the writers, and so they're going to be run out of books if the shows keep going, but I trust them creatively to come up with new stuff.
Oh, okay. What original storylines that you haven't done, but
Yeah,
that you won't be offended by that?
no. I mean, like the Ballard show, for example, they're already out of books. There's six Renee Ballard books, but the first four is when she's not working cold cases. She's working the night beat in
Yes.
Hollywood. And so the show is about her running cold case, and there's only been two books about that. And they're out already
Right.
after the season they're filming right now.
And you mentioned earlier that it's because of the who owns the rights. It's going to be really tricky to try and tie them all up in a TV or film project in the way that you can on the page. Do you have any ambition to make that happen, or do you just think it's too complicated?
I think it's too complicated. I mean, it's be something probably long after I've left this planet because of the conflicting companies, Amazon, Netflix. Um, so the shows would all have to stop, and about 5 years later, all rights would come back to me, and then I could talk about combining them. But like I said, I doubt I'll be around for that. That may be something like that. Hopefully, that's a problem my daughter has to work with.
Yeah. Have you discussed it with her?
Not too much, actually. No.
Because it's that. Well, I would imagine that's quite a lot of pressure as well. And what would Dad have wanted? Do you know what I mean? That kind of decision making.
Well, when we do have the discussion, I'll say, don't worry about what Dad would have wanted. To do what you feel is
Oh, really?
best.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Listen, I'm heartened to hear that you've got no intention of stopping because you know I'm greedy, right? And I just love reading your books. Ironwood's magnificent. It's even better than the first Stilwell. And I'm confident that the next one you're researching is probably going to be even better still because that seems to be. And I've asked you this before and you describe it as alchemy, so I won't waste your time again. But I don't know how you keep raising the bar, Michael Connelly. You do, and I don't know how you do it.
If I'm doing that, I don't know. I'm not conscious of it. I just, you treat, I treat what's been given to me. I cherish it. It's an amazing gift to any kind of creative person to be able to do what you want to do. And so if you realize how lucky that is, and you have to treat it, you can't mail it in. You gotta, I guess, raise the bar or try to raise the bar every time. And so that's what I do.
Well, and you succeed. And listen, thank you from the heart for making time because I know you're in a busy writing spell. I love chatting with you, Michael. Hopefully you'll make it back to the UK soon. And when you do, there's a beer with your name on it at my local bar.
Oh, thank you, Phil. I'll take you up on that.
The amazing, who's now sold 95 million books, by the way, Michael Connelly, talking to us on Books on the Beach. That'll travel on the internet. Make sure that you are following, you should be by now, right, on the audio platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're only halfway through season 1 and the great writers will keep coming. I promise you that. I'll catch you soon.